Hello, this is Hwansan Sunim, and welcome to our program. Recently, I met a new student who came to learn meditation in one of the groups that I manage. And after our meditation, she confided in me, and she told me how she has a problem saying no to people around her. And where she works, in the office that she works, she feels that she was being kind of taken advantage of by her colleagues and her superiors. Especially her superiors would have her run errands and do tasks that it wasn't her responsibility to do, to ask for personal favors, again, that had nothing to do with the actual work of the office. And she found that she just couldn't say no. They treated her in an impolite and disrespectful way, and yet she couldn't, she found herself always accommodating them and never saying anything in complaint or objecting to their unfair requests. So now, as I listened to this story, a very strange thing happened to me. As I listened to this story, I found myself becoming very sad because I feel that I share some of those qualities that she has. I have often felt in my own life that I'm too shy, too accommodating, and that I don't speak up when I should. And as I thought of the times that I felt that I had been taken advantage of, I began to feel rather sad and unhappy. And the stream of thinking in my mind began to change. And I heard myself saying in my own mind that, oh, you know, this is such an unhappy world and people are so cruel and unfair to each other. And, you know, how can anyone be happy in such a life? And I found myself thinking myself into a state of unhappiness. Fortunately, however, I realized what I was doing, and I took a breath, entered into meditation, said "이모고," and my mind cleared. And I thought, wait a second, I'm very happy. You know, I am doing work that I feel personally to be very, very meaningful. I work with people who are enthusiastic, supportive, and idealistic. I have nothing to be unhappy about. I have only things to be grateful about. Why did I drive myself into a state of unhappiness? And so this inspired me to develop today's episode. The topic of today's episode is the secret of happiness. How can we guide ourselves from states of unhappiness to a state of happiness? So the conversation that I just told you about this new member of our meditation group who found herself to be too accommodating, and all that transpired afterward, inspired me to think, inspired me to remember this one Dharma speech by my teacher, Sun Master Songdam, that I heard many, many years ago when I was first beginning my life as a Buddhist monk at a time when I found this life to be very difficult, and I was having a hard time adjusting to life in Korea and to life in a Korean Buddhist monastery. This one Dharma speech that I heard changed everything for me. And in it, I really felt that my teacher, Sun Master Songdam, had taught us the secret of happiness. So I went looking for this Dharma speech, and fortunately, I was able to find it, the film recording of this Dharma speech. So I'm very, very happy to share with you today the Dharma speech in which Sun Master Songdam teaches us the secret of happiness. Let's enter into Sun meditation together now, and let's listen to the Dharma speech of Sun Master Songdam as he teaches us the secret of happiness.
개사원 수독사님 주관성이로 수학적이요 대송사직 월수감이다. 우리는 배울 것이 학교에서 선생님한테만 배우고 절에 오면 스님한테만 배우는 것이 아니라 모든 사람, 모든 사물, 모든 자연현상에서 잠시 동안도 배우지 아니하고서는 안 돼. 배울 것이 너무너무 많아. 그래서 돌을 보면 견고한 것을 배우고, 물을 보면 맑음을 배우고, 소나무나 대나무를 보면 고든 절개를, 달을 보면 밝음을 배운다. 우리가 이 돌과 물과 소나무와 달 네 가지를 예로 들었지만, 어찌 그런 좋은 것만 보고 깨달을 것인가? 길가에 굴러다니는 쓰레기를 보고도 우리는 깨닫고, 소와 말이 쏟아놓는 오물을 보고도 우리는 깨닫고, 모든 개나 소나 짐승을 보고도 우리는 깨닫는 바가 있어요. 연전에 정정을 지내시고 연관하신 조암 근신입니다. 한 지금으로부터 40년쯤 된다. 또에게 정강 조실스님 두 근신을 모시고 어디 도살장을 한번 기원하러 갔습니다. 죽기 위해서 끌려가는 그 소도 자기 죽을 것을 슬퍼하는지 눈물이 글썽한 것처럼 보이는 끌려가는 소와 그것을 죽어가지고 그 고기 한 집씩 되도록 고기를 잘라서 운반을 하고 그것을 걸어놓는 그런 모습, 그런 도저히 볼 수 없는 참혹한 그런 광경을 보고 정말 그때 평생에 잊지 못할 마음에 발심을 했다고. 주님 말씀에 저 소를 봐라. 저 소는 전생의 중이 시주권만 먹고 도를 열심히 닦지 아니해서 그 시주 은혜를 그 빚을 보상하기 위해서 소로 태어났다. 저 소는 전생의 중이니라. 이런 말씀이 경전인데 과연 그 소를 잡는 도살장에 가서 보고 참 무서운 것은 오레이도 아니고 독사도 아니고 시주껏 함부로 먹는 것이 더 무서운 것이요. 그런 느낌을 가졌습니다. 죽어가는 도살장뿐만이 아니라 이 세상의 모든 사람들이 하는 행위가 좋은 행위를 하는 사람한테는 좋은 것을 배우고 부정부패에서 쇠고랑차는 그런 사람, 또 살인 강도하다가 잡혀가는 범죄인, 그것도 우리에게 충격만 주고 마는 것이 아니고 발심을 하도록 우리에게 주는 보살파에 있는 효과를 것입니다. 우리가 그것을 보고 반성하고 깨닫고 분심을 위해서 발심을 한다면 그러한 모든 것들이 보살파연이 되는 것이고, 그걸 보고 강 건너 불 보듯이 죽일 놈들, 저런 놈들은 당장 저는 찢어지게 한다. 사형을 해야 한다. 그러고 말아버린다면 그것이 우리에게 무슨 소용이 있는 것이냐고. 그 사람도 본래는 그런 악한 사람들이 아니었는데 한 생각 단속을 못해가지고 탐진치유 노예가 되었기 때문에 그렇게 된 것이다. 우리들도 한 생각 잘못 먹고 감정에 휩쓸리다 보면은 언제 그런 실수를 흘러는지 모르는 거예요. 또 우리 자손들 가운데에도 그런 사람들이 나오지 말라는 거고요. 그래서 우리는 그런 것을 보고도 우리는 깨달아야 하고 저런 것을 보고도 우리는 깨달아야 하고 무언만상계사는 말 없는 모 산나만상이 다 우리의 스승이고 도반이더라고요. 수도 산림 주관성이여 비록 산속에 홀로 지내더라도 그 산에 있는 모든 나무며 바위며 풀이며 구름이며 비며 개천이며 모든 것이 다 스승이요 무엇이더라. 우리가 음박을 더 드리는 그 개송을 정말 깊이 의미하고 그 뜻을 우리가 명심한다면 나무 허물 볼 결도 없고 남의 허물이 바로 나의 허물의 그림자요 또 남의 모든 허물이 나의 스승이며 도반이며 보살 화연이 나로 반성하고 깨닫게 하기 위해서 보살 화연이 저렇게 나타나신 것이다. 이렇게 될 것이다. 그렇게 된다면 우리는 나날이 향상되어 갈 것이고 모든 사람을 미워하기보다는 자비심으로 상대하게 될 것이고 모든 사람을 다 존중할 수 있는 마음가짐이 될 것입니다. 밖에서 얻어지는 모든 것은 설사 그것이 좋은 것이라 하더라도 잠시 우리를 기쁘게 하는 것이고 안에서 얻어지는 것은 그것은 영원한 것입니다.
So the first thing that Sun Master Songdam tells us in his Dharma speech is to learn from all the experiences that we encounter in living. And he uses the example of nature. He tells us, learn purity from water, learn integrity from the pine tree, learn brightness from the sun. Learn from everything that you encounter, learn especially from nature. Use all of the events of your life as opportunities to learn. Now, of course, Sun Master Songdam is not the first person to give this kind of advice. And probably most of us instinctively try to learn from our experience anyway. But what we need to understand in the context of Sun Master Songdam's teachings is that everything that he teaches assumes that we are in a state of sun meditation, assumes that we are going to be applying the technique of sun meditation to truly grasp and plumb the depth of that teaching. So let's consider again this teaching of trying to learn from everything that we experience. In life, every single one of us will suffer pain and disappointment and sorrow and anger and fear and so forth. We all know that. Now we can let these experiences go to waste, or we can reflect on them and try to learn more about the nature of life, more about the nature of people, and more about the nature of the world. So for example, we may be very angry at something that someone did to us. And we may say to ourselves, you know, I am never going to let anyone get away with doing anything unpleasant to me. From now on, if anyone gets in my face, they're really going to get it. I'm really going to have something to say. So that's a lesson that we can draw in anger. But is that really a helpful and wise lesson? Because if you make a lesson like that and decide to challenge, confront, and attack everything that basically doesn't please you, are you not taking a path where you will continue to create the very kinds of conflicts and problems that got you angry in the first place? Another example might be fear and pain at being emotionally wounded and feeling rejected in a relationship. We may say to ourselves in our hurt, in our wounded pride and in our sorrow, we may say to ourselves, I am never going to open my heart to anyone again. I am never going to trust anyone. I am never going to love anyone. Now, does that kind of lesson make sense? Won't that create the very loneliness that made us seek out other people in the first place, that made us want to open up and trust them in the first place? So what we need to understand is that if we really want to learn from life, we have to enter into a state of meditation. And what meditation does for us is this. Normally, when we're engaging people and the world, we put labels on everything. That's a tree, that's water, that's a sun, that's a rock, that's this person, I like that person is a good person. That's that person, I don't like that person is a bad person. We put labels on everything that we encounter, and from then on, we stop paying attention. At all times, we are receiving an enormous flood of perceptual information from the world. But when we put labels on everything, we stop paying attention to that information, and we start paying attention only to those labels. Therefore, we are unable to learn from the information and knowledge that the world is giving to us at all times. But when we enter into meditation, we breathe using Dantian breathing. We ask ourselves, 이모고. We raise the great doubt, and the doubt cleanses our mind, eliminates all unnecessary thoughts. It eliminates the barrier of thought that stands between me and reality. And for the first time, I am able to enter into an intimate communication with the life experiences that I am entering into in every moment of living. I am able to commune with reality, with life, in this state of empty clarity that sun meditation creates in my mind. And I will argue here that in this state, we learn the most profound lessons of our life that lead us to happiness. And I'll give you an example from my personal life. So when I first became a Buddhist monastic, I could not speak a word of Korean. I didn't know anything about Korean culture, and not even about the Korean Buddhist monastic culture. And when I came into the monastery, I was unable to communicate, completely, ignorant of everything that was going on around me. And I found that the people around me had ways of thinking, ways of relating to each other that were very, very different from the kinds of thinking and relating that I was used to. And I felt at that time that they were very different than me. And so often I felt very alienated, and because I couldn't communicate properly, I felt very vulnerable. I felt that it would be very easy to take advantage of me, to manipulate me. I also felt that there was no way, or it was very difficult to stand up for myself and to argue because I had such limited communication ability. So under those circumstances, I always felt alienated, always felt sort of, left out in a certain sense. And every once in a while, as in all human organizations and in all groups, every once in a while there would be someone who didn't like me. And I found this dislike very troubling, very distressing. Again, as I said at the beginning of this program, I tend to be shy. Especially in those days, I think as a young man, I think perhaps I might have been too accommodating of other people. And so to be disliked in a foreign environment where I felt so outnumbered and so alone caused me some amount of distress. And those first years of my life as a Buddhist monk, I can say were the most difficult and probably the most unhappy years of my life. And I was always searching for an answer, a way to get through that. And then I heard this Dharma speech. And I heard Sun Master Songdam teach us that we have to learn from every experience using sun meditation. And so one day I was meditating, and I wasn't even particularly thinking about the problem of human relationships and the problem of being occasionally disliked by people. But I was meditating, and suddenly, for me, what was for me a very powerful insight at this young age. I realized, and it wasn't like I was thinking about it, it was just a flash of perception. I realized that there are basically 3 reasons why someone might dislike me. So the first is, they might dislike me not because of anything that I did, but because of what I am in a certain sense, or what they think I am, or what I remind them of. There are people in this world who will dislike someone simply because they're from another country, or from another religion, or they may have a different sexual orientation, or they may have a different political view, liberal or conservative. People can dislike each other for the silliest of reasons. We can dislike each other because of the food that we eat. Meat eaters might not like vegetarians, vegetarians might not like meat eaters, and so forth. And I realize that if it's a case of someone disliking me for what I am, that's really not my problem. I have done nothing wrong. It's really a reflection of certain inner conflicts that they have, certain issues that they have. And so really, for me, the only thing that remains is to learn how to deal with the situation. So now, of course, that form of dislike is the foundation of all forms of discrimination, racism, sexism, homophobia, and so forth, religious persecution, things like that. And it can cause a lot of ugly human behavior. So it is something that's very harmful. But from my perspective, I was able to see it as something that I don't have to worry about myself in that situation. I just have to worry about how to manage the situation itself. So that's the first reason that someone can dislike you. The second reason is that there has been some kind of understanding. We have interpreted each other's speech and actions in the wrong way. And what I realized, if that's the case, if there is a misunderstanding, then really all you need to do is wisely select the right time and right place to communicate with them and to work out your differences. And in almost all cases, you can work it out. If it's just a misunderstanding, if there is no true ill will toward one another, if there is only disapproval of what seems to be each other's behavior, then we can work it out. And then there's a third reason why someone may dislike you, and this one's the most important. They may dislike you for something that you actually are doing that is inappropriate or improper. And this I found to be the most powerful lesson that someone who dislikes you can give to you. It is the most powerful service that someone who dislikes you can perform for you. The reason for this is that when we are friends with people, in our friendship, we have agreed not to attack each other's shortcomings and inappropriate behaviors. We have decided to accept each other's flaws. So our friends will rarely point out what we're doing wrong. That is something that most friends are uncomfortable doing. So we will only wait to the last minute and then finally say, I want to say this to you as your friend, but I think what you're doing is wrong, what you're saying is wrong, and so forth. This is something that we tend to avoid in our friendships, most of us. Who then is willing to point out what we're doing wrong, if not the people who dislike us? They are the ones who don't let us get away with our inappropriate behavior. They are the ones who have something really, really important to teach us. They are the ones who provide us with an opportunity to grow beyond our current limitations, to develop new, more constructive, more positive ways of behaving, to evolve. Now, having said that, I want to give a kind of warning. Because as I said, there are people like myself and like the person I mentioned at the beginning of this program that are too shy or too accommodating or too willing to let other people get away with things. Now, in the case of my friend, the person that I talked about at the beginning of this program, I later found out that in her office, she's very hardworking, very sincere, very earnest with everyone. And in addition to that, she happens also to be very popular, both with men and women. And it seems like her colleagues and her superiors were kind of jealous of her, kind of envious, a little bit resentful of all the affection and popularity that she was receiving, and kind of treated her badly because of that. In that case, obviously, she was doing nothing wrong. If that's all true, she was doing nothing wrong. And really, she was the person who was doing something wrong to herself because she was allowing other people to mistreat her. So if we have a tendency to be socially passive, or to be overly accommodating or overly acquiescent, then we need to especially be careful in situations like this. Really use the meditation to enter into a deep state of clarity and objectivity and penetrating perception to see things the way they are, and especially to see yourself the way you are. When we're able to completely empty our mind, to enter into that pristine state of emptiness, then as Sun Master Songdam teaches us, we don't just see the surface of things, we don't just put labels on everything, then truly we are able to experience within our own mind and body the purity of water, the firmness of stone, the integrity of the pine tree, the beauty of moonlight, and the brightness of sun. We can look at all the pain and suffering in the world and see the sorrow of that. We can laugh at the absurdity of all the things that happen in the world. We can stand in genuine awe and wonder at the incomprehensible, unimaginable, symphonic integration of all the events and phenomena and entities in the world. And we can see a kind of perfection that underlies reality by meditating. In our meditation, we can learn humbleness as we see how incredibly insignificant our tiny, short-lived life is, and at the same time, in great dignity and self-respect, we can see and perceive the amazing sacredness and preciousness of all life, of every living being in this universe. In this way, we can have profoundly transformative learning experiences, even from the most painful events and experiences of our lives, if we know how to meditate. So that's the first secret of happiness that I learned from Sun Master Songdam back in the most difficult days of my life, and it's one that I'm very happy to share with you. Learn from the experiences of your life through meditation. Now, let's assume meditation posture once again, enter into meditation once again, and let's listen to the Dharma speech of Sun Master Songdam as he teaches us another secret of happiness. So again, straighten your back, tuck in your chin, place your tongue against the roof of your mouth, relax your shoulders and your chest, empty your mind, enter into Dantian breathing. Ask yourself, 이모고, with every out-breath, and raise the great doubt.
진짜 행복하고 싶으면 나는 행복하다 하는 글자를 방에다가 도처에다 써놓고 하루에 몇 번씩 나는 행복하다. 나는 행복하다 하고 자꾸 생각해 보시란 말이에요. 이건 장난말 같지만 절대로 장난말이 아니거든. 나는 행복하다. 왜 행복하냐? 가끔 한 번씩은 왜 행복하냐 하는 것을 생각해봐. 이만큼 살고 있으니까 행복하다. 이만큼 그래도 괜찮은 남편을 얻었으니까 행복하다. 나는 그래도 이만큼 무던한 아내를 얻었으니까 행복하다. 자식도 이만하면 괜찮으니 그래서 행복하다. 이만큼 먹고 살면 그만이지. 그러니까 나는 행복하다. 좋은 점만을 생각하고 자꾸 나는 행복하다. 하루에 1000번씩만 해보라. 나중에는 진짜 얼굴이 입이 옆으로 쫙 빼면서 뭐 하는 일이 잘 되고 짜증낼 것도 없고 그런 대로 괜찮다고 말이야. 그러다 보니 진짜 행복한 사람이 되는 거야. 제법 먹고 살고 좋은 차도 있고 돈도 있고 괜찮은 사람이 큰 불행해. 자꾸 다른 사람 좋은 사람만 거느다 보고서 나는 왜 저렇게 이쁜 마누라를 못 얻었을까? 괜히 저 뒷가에서 나는 왜 저런 남편을 못 얻었을까? 자꾸 자기 남편, 자기 아내를 다른 사람과 비교해가지고 왜 나도 우리 남편 돈을 더 잘 버는 남편을 못 얻었을까? 그래가지고 집에 들어와서 나는 불행해. 나는 불행해. 우리 엄마는 왜 저런 사람을 신랑감을 만나게 해줬을까? 부모 원망. 심지어는 중매쟁이 원망. 그래가지고 생각해볼수록 속에서 또 부어가 치밀어 온다는 말이야. 남편이 와도 본치만치. 조금만 늦게 오면 뭐도 인정한다. 그러니 남편이 좋아라 할 거냐고. 그래서 당장을 부탁하시면 흰 종이에다 나는 행복하다. 쓰면 좀 창피하면 안 보인 데다 딱 써보세요. 안 보인 데다. 그러다가 조금 잘 보면 보이고 그런 데다가 써보시다가 나중에 그 괜찮은 소식은 버젓하게 크게 써보세요. 그런 마음씨가 가진 사람들이 우리 사회에 던지면 좋은 보관이요, 좋은 스승이요, 모두가 다 불보살. 그리고 우리가 존경할 수 있는 상대가 이 산승이 여기 올라가서 두서없이 되지 않는 소리를 남은 것을 법문이라고 생각해 본 일도 없고 법문이라고 하고 있는 것이 아닙니다. 진짜 법문은 법신설법이라고 하는 것이 있는데 그것이 진짜 법문이거든. 이 세계에 있는 산나 만상, 산하대지 두두물물이 다 그것이 비로자나 법신체도 한가지 다 설법을 하고 있고 나무가 서는 동물은 바위가 듣고 바위가 서는 동물은 나무가 듣고 큰 나무가 서는 동물은 작은 나무가 작은 나무 조그마한 풀포기 하나도 범벌이 서러고 있는 거예요. 조그마한 벌레도 다 끝나는 대로 무상설법을 하고 있는 거예요. 그래서 법을 서러고 또 서러운 법을 듣고 피차 서러고 피차 듣는 거예요. 그 법신설법을 들을 줄 알아야 진짜 법을 듣는 법을 듣는 거예요. 최상승법에 의지해서 열심히 목표를 하고 참선을 하게 되면 그 법신설법을 듣게 되는 것입니다. 생각을 어떻게 먹느냐. 감사하는 마음, 항상 모든 사람을 사랑하는 마음, 지혜로운 마음, 자비스러운 마음으로 생각을 항상 가지면은 참 얼굴은 이뻐집니다. 그것은 오늘날 과학적으로도 다 증명이 됩니다. 마음도 바르게 쓰고 맑게 쓰고 자비롭게 쓰면은 확실히 얼굴도 고와지고 또 몸의 비용도 심장병, 간장병이 속이 방방없고 속상하고 썩내는 데에서 온갖 비용이 자꾸 악화가 되는 것은 여러분도 충분히 인식하고 계시리라고 생각합니다. 이렇게 해서 이목구를 열심히 하시는 마음도 고와지고 개인도 이뻐지고 젊어지고 가정도 편안하고 행복해지고 이웃도 서로 사랑하는 마음으로 서로 존경하는 마음으로 서로 애끼는 마음으로 상대하게 되니 지상 천국이 바로 이것이 아니겠습니까? 이렇게 살아간 사람이 죽어서 지옥 갈 것은 아주 걱정을 놓으시라고요.
So in his Dharma speech, Sun Master Songdam tells us to say to ourselves, I am happy. To write it on a piece of paper and put it on the wall and read it every day. I am happy. I am happy. Now, when I first heard this Dharma speech, I really didn't know what to make of it. Sun Master Songdam is by far the smartest person I have ever met in my life. So I really couldn't understand why he was giving such an incredibly simplistic, seemingly childish teaching. Just say to yourself you're happy. I am happy. So, my spouse wants to divorce me, but I'm happy. I just got fired from my job, but I'm happy. A con artist has swindled me out of my life savings, but I'm happy. My house has burned down, but I'm happy. On the surface, this teaching doesn't make sense. It almost seems like a teaching that's telling us to deny our true feelings. Now, once again, what we need to remember is that Sun Master Songdam is always teaching in the context of the practice of sun meditation. And when we look at this teaching that he has presented us, this seemingly simplistic teaching, from the light of both sun meditation and modern psychological theory, we can see an underlying profundity and depth and a reason why he's giving us this teaching. According to psychologists, every person, or almost every person I would imagine, but every person feels the need to make their speech and their behavior consistent with their thinking. So if I say, I'm so unhappy, then what will happen is I will start to look for reasons around me that account for my unhappiness. I'm so unhappy. I'm only making this much money. You know, I'm only doing this. I don't have many friends. You know, I'm not as healthy as I should be, etc. I start looking for reasons to support. In a sense, I start looking for evidence to support this statement that I made to myself out of pure habit. I am unhappy. I even start to talk and behave like an unhappy person. You know, I kind of droop down and my facial expression goes down and people come up to me and say, is something wrong? I say, yeah, I'm unhappy. I make myself unhappy with my own thinking. So often we think that our thoughts are in response to reality, but actually our thoughts create our response to reality. And at all times we are trying to make our speech and our behavior consistent with these statements that we make in our own minds. And so what we say about ourselves, so-called self-statements, are incredibly important because they will actually shape not only how we experience reality, but also how we behave and live our lives. So in response to this, Sun Master Songdam tells us, tell yourself that you're happy. But again, we have to meditate. If you're in a bad state of mind, if your spouse is trying to divorce you, if you just got fired from your job, if some con artist has swindled you, if your house has burned down, in that state of sorrow, anger, rage, whatever, you don't keep saying, I'm happy, I'm happy. That's just, you're just trying to place a thought against the emotions that you're actually experiencing. You're just creating inner conflict. What you need to do first is enter into sun meditation. Again, use sun meditation to sweep away all the labels that we put on reality. Enter into a pristine state of emptiness and clarity. Receive all of the knowledge that reality is giving to us at all times. Enter into that inner state of stillness, and we can do it together. Together right now, we can see whether Sun Master Songdam's teaching actually works or not. So together with me, assume correct sun meditation posture. Be very straight, very relaxed. Gently engage Dantian breathing. Inhale, pause, and on the out breath, Imogo. Become very quiet and still and empty and bright inside. Again, inhale. Pause, and then together, Imogo. Allow your body to relax. Allow your emotions to settle down. Become quiet inside. Become clear inside. Again, inhale. Pause, and then Imogo. And now in this state of meditation, repeat after me and say the things that Sun Master Songdam taught us to say. So in meditation, say out loud, I am a good person. I deserve to be loved and respected. I have something to give to the world. I am intelligent. I am beautiful. I am happy. And you will find that your entire state of mind and body changes. And this is how we can use sun meditation and a positive self-affirmation to completely change our mind and our perspective on reality and even change the way we will do things afterward. So these are the two secrets of happiness that I learned from Sun Master Songdam so many years ago. The first secret is to use sun meditation to learn from experience, and the second is to use sun meditation to guide yourself into a state of happiness. Always remember that our unconscious mind is like a naive child. It's very open to suggestion. It believes what it hears. This is why people react so strongly to insults and compliments. If someone says something bad about you, you're a fool, something in you believes it and is hurt by that belief. On the other hand, if someone says something very nice to you, you're so charming, then we believe it and we become very, very happy, like little kids. This is why cursing someone is so destructive, and this is also why positive statements for helping one another can be so helpful. So when we understand this, we use sun meditation to go into a state of inner stillness and clarity. And then once we're there, we learn from our experience, we create our own states of happiness. Now, as I said, I learned this many, many years ago, and in the years that followed, I realized that you don't actually have to make the intention to learn. You don't actually have to keep saying to yourself, I am happy, I am happy. What will happen eventually is as the sun meditation becomes habituated within your mind and body, you will find that by meditating, you automatically learn from your experience. You will experience flashes of insight, perception. Your thoughts will become naturally organized. You will find that you respond more and more appropriately to the events of your life, and you will find that sun meditation itself brings you into a state of positivity, hopefulness, and optimism, what we call happiness, what we call joy, so you don't actually have to say, I am happy. But these are the two secrets that I learned from my teacher, Sun Master Songdam, many, many years ago when I was in a very difficult time in my life and just starting my life as a Buddhist monk. I hope they're helpful for you. And also, I will ask our viewers that if you have secrets of happiness that you've discovered, please let me know, and I will be happy to share them on future episodes of this program. This brings us now to the end of another episode. Thank you once again to all of our viewers for watching today's program. And once again, I will conclude with the traditional Buddhist greeting. May we all attain enlightenment.
다른 방법이 다른 방법으로 열심히 해야지 다른 방법을 모르고 열심히 하다 보면 본의 아니게 그런 일이 일어나서 고생하게 되니까 그렇게 하시고 화두는 이무 쏘는 것이 이 세상에 사람이 나와서 할 것은 이것밖에 없는 목숨 바쳐서 할 것은 이것밖에 없어요. 다른 것은 자기에게 주어진 책임, 자기에게 주어진 직업, 자기에게 주어진 위치에서 모든 것을 열심히 성실히 해야 하는 것은 사실이나 진짜 목숨 바치고선 나의 생사 문제를 해결하는 또는 영원한 행복을 누리기 위해서는 이 무엇보다는 더 좋은